The silence has officially been broken, and the golden boy of Hollywood is finally refusing to play the quiet, accommodating ex any longer. For years, Michael B. Jordan maintained a perfectly manicured, dignified silence while the internet tore his reputation to shreds, whispering that he was the problem, that he was the one who couldn't commit, or worse, that he was just using the Harvey name as a cultural shield. But the mask has officially slipped, and the real architect behind his most public heartbreak is being dragged directly into the light. We are not talking about a simple case of two young, successful celebrities growing apart because of busy schedules or long distance. No, this goes infinitely deeper into the dark, calculated world of high-stakes celebrity branding, media manipulation, and absolute maternal control. Rumor has it that Michael B. Jordan has dropped a series of behind-the-scenes bombshells that trace every single ounce of toxicity, every leaked rumor, and the ultimate destruction of his relationship straight back to one person. The undisputed matriarch herself, Marjorie Harvey. If you thought you knew the real reason why Hollywood's most promising power couple evaporated overnight, you have only been reading the script that she allowed you to see. Get ready, because the pristine, luxury-coated facade of the Harvey family empire is officially cracking, and the details coming out about how Marjorie allegedly orchestrated a systematic character assassination against Michael B. Jordan will change everything you thought you knew about this love story. The internet has been completely blinded by the glamorous aesthetic of Lori Harvey's dating life, but it is time to look past the pristine vacation photos and decode the heavy, calculated machinery operating behind the scenes. When Michael B. Jordan first stepped into the Harvey family circle, the world thought they were witnessing a modern fairy tale of two elite black figures dominating mainstream media, but insiders are now revealing it was actually a highly weaponized, corporate arrangement designed to extract maximum cultural capital from a self-made A-list movie star. Marjorie Harvey has spent decades carefully positioning herself as the ultimate arbiter of high fashion, luxury, and elite social standing, and she immediately viewed Michael not just as a potential son-in-law, but as the ultimate asset to elevate her daughter's brand into spaces that money simply could not buy. For years, the narrative circulated that Michael was the one pulling strings, or that his team initiated this romance to fix his own standing within the black community. But the cold truth coming out of Hollywood's inner circles suggests a completely different dynamic, where Michael was targeted for his pristine reputation, his unmatched industry leverage, and his massive studio connections. Marjorie understands better than anyone in the industry that in the digital age, a celebrity's currency is entirely dependent on perception, and by bringing the star of Black Panther and Creed into the family orbit, she achieved an overnight transformation for Lori's public image, turning her from a serial tabloid fixation into a highly respected, luxury fashion icon. To truly understand why things turned so incredibly toxic between Michael and Marjorie, we have to look back at the long list of controversial public fallouts and high-profile relationships that Marjorie had to navigate, manage, and clean up before Michael ever entered the picture. Lori Harvey's romantic history was becoming a massive public relations liability for the family brand, with the internet keeping a ruthless, running tally of her associations with figures like Future, Trey Songz, Memphis Depay, and even the highly problematic relationship with Sean Diddy Combs. Each of these situations brought an immense amount of negative press, internet memes, and public skepticism that threatened to derail Lori's aspirations of becoming a legitimate face for global luxury brands like Chanel and Burberry. The relationship with Diddy was particularly damaging, especially as the public later began connecting dots regarding the dark, controversial world surrounding Diddy's lifestyle, leaving the Harvey family desperate for a massive, clean, undisputed public relations pivot that could wipe the slate completely clean. Enter Michael B. Jordan, a man with absolutely zero criminal record, zero public scandals, an incredibly high corporate standing with major Hollywood studios, and an international reputation for being a polite, disciplined, and deeply respectful gentleman. Marjorie allegedly recognized this as the golden opportunity to execute a masterclass in reputation rehabilitation, negotiating a high-profile, mutually beneficial relationship that would give Michael a beautiful, highly publicized romance while providing Lori with the ultimate shield against the lingering internet rumors. The trouble began almost immediately because Michael B. Jordan is not a malleable, industry newcomer who can be easily manipulated by a family matriarch accustomed to having everyone bow to her every whim and demand. Michael entered that relationship as a wealthy, established king in his own right, running his own massive production company, Outlier Society, and maintaining direct lines of communication with the highest-ranking executives in Hollywood. He was completely unaccustomed to the intense, suffocating level of micromanagement that Marjorie reportedly exercises over every single person within her immediate circle, including her husband Steve Harvey. For decades, Steve has treated Marjorie like an absolute goddess, publicly worshipping her, catering to her every demand, and letting her run the family operations with an iron fist, which created an expectation in Marjorie's mind that every man who enters the family must fall in line and submit to her authority. But when Michael refused to play the role of a compliant, submissive boyfriend who takes orders from his girlfriend's mother, the underlying tension quickly escalated from silent resentment into an all-out, behind-the-scenes war for control and dominance. Michael treated Marjorie with basic, everyday respect as a future mother-in-law, but he completely refused to kiss the ring or treat her like the supreme boss of his life, his career, or his romantic choices, and that single boundary was enough to make him an immediate target in Marjorie's eyes. The psychological shift became glaringly obvious during their highly publicized trip to Paris Fashion Week, where the intense rivalry for the spotlight finally spilled out into the open and caused irreversible damage to the relationship. For years, Marjorie had been used to being the undisputed diva of the family, the one the photographers clamored to capture, and the central figure whenever the Harveys made an appearance in Europe's high-fashion capitals. But the moment Michael B. Jordan arrived in Paris alongside Lori, the international paparazzi completely ignored Marjorie, screaming at the top of their lungs for Michael and Lori, pushing past Marjorie's security to get a glimpse of Hollywood's newest IT couple. Insiders claim that this sudden dramatic shift in gravity deeply wounded Marjorie's immense ego, as she realized that her own daughter and this Hollywood superstar were completely eclipsing her own carefully curated public relevance. Instead of celebrating the massive success of the couple, Marjorie allegedly began viewing Michael's immense A-list energy as arrogant, overbearing, and a direct threat to her status as the supreme matriarch of the Harvey brand. She reportedly began whispering in the ears of family members and close media associates, systematically constructing a narrative that Michael did not respect the family legacy, that his ego was too big for the room, and that he was actively trying to separate Lori from the very people who built her platform. This calculated campaign to undermine Michael's standing within the family was not just a reaction to hurt feelings. It was a strategic preparation to phase him out in favor of a much more agreeable, manageable suitor who would play the family game perfectly. Long before the public ever knew that Michael and Lori were on the verge of a breakup, Marjorie was reportedly singing the absolute praises of British actor Damson Idris, openly comparing him to Michael in private family gatherings. Damson was viewed by Marjorie as the ideal partner for the family brand because he was incredibly polite, low maintenance, deeply eager to please, and most importantly, he did not come with the massive, protective, and unyielding corporate apparatus that protects an international superstar like Michael. While Michael was busy running a multi-million-dollar production empire and making decisions that impacted major studio film slates, Damson was someone who could easily fit into the family's vacation schedules, pose for the curated Instagram photos without demanding creative control, and defer completely to Marjorie's lifestyle rules. Insiders are now dropping the shocking allegation that Marjorie was actively cultivating a relationship with Damson behind the scenes while Lori was still living in Michael's mansion, waiting patiently for Michael to make even a single administrative mistake, so she could instantly push him out the door and slide the more cooperative suitor directly into his place. As the relationship between Michael and Lori grew more intense and talk of a lifelong commitment began to surface, Marjorie allegedly decided to bring out the heavy legal artillery to completely lock down Michael's financial and creative assets. She reportedly presented Michael's legal team with a stack of prenuptial and relationship agreements so aggressively one-sided that it left seasoned entertainment lawyers completely speechless and deeply alarmed. Marjorie wasn't just looking to protect Lori's existing likeness, her modeling contracts, or her future social media brand earnings. She was allegedly attempting to leverage the relationship to secure an ironclad percentage of Michael's production company, Outlier Society, and any future film intellectual properties he developed during their time together. For a self-made blockbuster star who spent over a decade working his way up from child acting roles to producing massive, global cinematic franchises, this was an absolute line in the sand that he was never going to cross. Michael viewed this extreme legal maneuver as a blatant, predatory attempt to exploit his hard-earned Hollywood success for the benefit of an insatiable family empire, And when he flatly refused to sign the documents, Marjorie realized that her ability to financially control Michael B. Jordan was completely non-existent. When the financial manipulation failed to yield results, the micromanagement of Michael and Lori's daily lives reached an absolute breaking point, with Marjorie reportedly demanding final approval over everything from their private vacation destinations to the exact captions and timing of their Instagram posts. Michael, who is used to navigating high-level studio negotiations and managing massive film sets with thousands of employees, found himself being lectured on how to conduct his private life by a woman who viewed the world through the narrow lens of social media clout. He desperately tried to establish firm boundaries, attempting to take Lori away from her mother's intense, suffocating social circle, so they could build a genuine, authentic foundation for a life together away from the constant cameras and public relations strategies. But the moment Michael tried to isolate Lori from this toxic family dynamic, Marjorie completely flipped the script, launching a full-scale psychological manipulation campaign by convincing both Steve and Lori that Michael was displaying deeply controlling, toxic behaviors. She masterfully twisted Michael's healthy desire for privacy and normal relationship boundaries into a narrative of isolation, telling Lori that Michael was trying to dim her light, control her career, and cut her off from the very mother who had guided her to success. This intense psychological warfare inside the household created an environment where Michael B. Jordan was constantly forced to defend his character against a barrage of invisible accusations. He was a man deeply in love, willing to compromise on scheduling, public appearances, and even lifestyle choices just to keep the peace and protect the woman he envisioned as his future wife. He repeatedly attempted to host private dinners, initiate open conversations, and sit down with the family executives to smooth over the artificial friction that Marjorie was manufacturing behind his back. But every single peace offering was met with an icy, calculated distance because the decision to eliminate him from the Harvey matrix had already been finalized in the upper echelons of the family command structure. Marjorie allegedly told Lori directly that the corporate utility of the relationship had reached its peak, the public relations objective of cleaning her image had been successfully achieved, and it was time to cut him loose before his boundaries permanently disrupted their established family business model. Steve Harvey found himself caught completely in the middle of this high-stakes domestic standoff, desperately trying to play the mediator because he genuinely respected and loved Michael B. Jordan. Steve had gone on national television multiple times, beaming with pride, openly praising Michael for his discipline, his humility, and the intentional gentlemanly way he treated Lori like an absolute queen. For Steve, Michael was the ultimate breath of fresh air compared to the chaotic stream of rappers, athletes, and industry players who had previously cycled through his daughter's life, leaving trail marks of scandal. But in the Harvey household, Steve's voice was completely neutralized by Marjorie's absolute executive authority, and when he tried to advocate for Michael, he was firmly reminded of the house rule regarding complete loyalty to the maternal agenda. Steve was ultimately forced to fall in line, a reality he later let slip with nervous laughter during a public appearance when he admitted that any boy who becomes an ex to Lori automatically becomes an enemy to him, proving how deep the operational mandate to freeze Michael out really went. The moment the official breakup announcement hit the mainstream media via carefully coordinated leaks to high-profile entertainment outlets, the true depth of the character assassination strategy began to unfold. The public was fed a sanitized, highly generic narrative claiming that Lori simply was not ready to settle down, that she valued her freedom, and that Michael was moving too fast toward marriage. This narrative was masterfully crafted to make Lori look like an independent, empowered young woman who refused to be tied down, while subtly hinting that Michael was needy, desperate, or unable to maintain the interest of an elite IT girl. But behind this media smokescreen, a far more sinister and damaging rumor was being deliberately seeded into the urban blogs and social media comment sections to completely destroy Michael's unblemished moral standing. Rumors suddenly began exploding across the internet claiming that the real reason for the sudden split was not a difference in long-term goals, but that Michael had been caught secretly cheating on Lori with a former partner. To ensure that the cheating allegations carried maximum weight while keeping Marjorie's hands completely clean of the slander, a trusted family ally and industry veteran was utilized to drop the explosive claims publicly. Lisa Ray McCoy, a longtime close associate of the family and a woman known for her unfiltered, loud media presence, stepped onto a major talk show platform and blew the entire cover off the sanitized breakup story. Lisa Ray boldly claimed that the narrative about Lori not being ready for marriage was absolute garbage, asserting that Lori was fully prepared to say yes to a proposal until a massive secret was uncovered. According to this public declaration, Lori had discovered just days prior to a planned engagement that Michael was allegedly rekindling his romance and messing around with an old girlfriend from his past. This single targeted media strike completely shifted the public gravity, instantly transforming Michael from a respected gentleman into a calculated deceiver who had broken the heart of a young black woman just as she was ready to commit. The brilliance of this structural hit lay in how it perfectly weaponized the internet's pre-existing, hypersensitive discourse surrounding Michael B. Jordan's romantic history and racial preferences. For years, the internet had debated his dating choices, and by introducing a narrative involving an old flame, the PR machine effectively triggered a massive cultural backlash against him. The public immediately jumped to the conclusion that Michael had simply used Lori as a temporary cultural shield to validate his standing with black audiences, only to abandon her the moment he felt secure in his superstar status. This calculated move completely inverted the truth, shifting the villain label away from Marjorie's intense control tactics and placing it squarely on Michael's chest, leaving his corporate team scrambling to manage a devastating crisis of public perception. What made the situation an absolute nightmare for Michael was the strategic, unyielding wall of silence that the Harvey women maintained, while their close associates completely dismantled his reputation. There was no joint press release, no mutual call for privacy, and absolutely zero effort from Lori or Marjorie to come forward and deny the swirling toxic rumors of infidelity. Instead, Lori executed a swift, clinical extraction of Michael from her digital existence, scrubbing every single photograph, holiday memory, and birthday dedication from her massive Instagram page within a matter of minutes. This aggressive, silent deletion acted as a loud, unspoken validation of the cheating rumors in the eyes of the public, because in the modern landscape of celebrity culture, completely erasing an ex is the ultimate confirmation that a massive betrayal has occurred. Michael B. Jordan found himself completely trapped in a legal and cultural chokehold, bound by a complex web of non-disclosure agreements that the Harvey legal team makes every suitor sign before entering their inner circle. He could not launch a counteroffensive, he could not go on a podcast tour to explain his side of the story, and he could not call out Marjorie's manipulative tactics without triggering multi-million-dollar legal penalties. He was forced to sit in his mansion and watch the internet tear down the character he had spent 20 years building with absolute discipline, precision, and hard work. The court of public opinion had found him guilty based entirely on the strategic silence of his ex-girlfriend and the loud, unchecked proclamations of their family friends, leaving him entirely isolated as the designated villain of the narrative. The psychological toll of this corporate-level rejection and public framing was immense, causing a massive rift between Michael and the Hollywood social circles he used to navigate with absolute ease. He realized that the relationship had never been an authentic bond based on mutual growth, but a highly transactional business arrangement where he was expected to provide access to elite spaces while surrendering his autonomy to a domestic matriarchy. Every romantic vacation, every red carpet appearance, and every shared laugh had been meticulously weighed on a scale of social media currency by Marjorie, who treated their love story like a seasonal marketing campaign for the Harvey empire. The moment he demanded a genuine partnership based on normal boundaries and mutual respect, the campaign was canceled, the assets were liquidated, and the target was completely neutralized with terrifying efficiency. As the months rolled by, the narrative of Michael being the broken-hearted, unfaithful ex began to solidify into internet folklore, impacting how brands, studios, and fans interacted with his public persona. He started noticing that even when he was promoting massive box office triumphs like Creed 3, the interview questions would subtly veer toward his personal life, his ability to commit, and the lingering shadow of the Harvey fallout. Marjorie had successfully managed to leave a permanent stain on his pristine armor, ensuring that no matter how many blockbusters he directed or starred in, a segment of his core audience would always view him through the lens of suspicion she created. It was an absolute masterclass in narrative dominance, where a family brand with zero Hollywood studio power managed to outmaneuver one of the most powerful A-list actors in the entire cinematic industry. But the silence was never going to last forever, because a man who built his entire empire on discipline, self-respect, and absolute authenticity can only take so many hits before the corporate dam completely breaks. Insiders are now confirming that Michael has finally reached his absolute limit with the ongoing whispering campaign, and is quietly letting his inner circle, major studio heads, and influential media figures know the precise reality of what went down behind closed doors. He is finally ready to expose the intense, toxic machinery that controls the Harvey brand, pulling back the curtain on the aggressive financial demands, the suffocating micromanagement, and the terrifying level of control that Marjorie exercises over everyone who steps into her path. This isn't just about a broken heart anymore. It is an all-out battle for reputation survival, as Michael B. Jordan prepares to show the entire world exactly why entering Marjorie Harvey's orbit was the single most dangerous mistake of his entire life. This strategic quiet resistance from Michael B. Jordan has triggered an absolute structural panic within the Harvey corporate hierarchy, because they never anticipated that their carefully managed, submissive target would find a way to strike back without violating his legal boundaries. The elite circles of Hollywood are now buzzing with reports that Michael's team has initiated a systematic, quiet counteroffensive, ensuring that top studio heads, high-powered fashion executives, and influential media gatekeepers are fully briefed on the exact nature of Marjorie's intense micromanagement. By shifting the battlefield away from volatile social media commentary and moving it directly into the executive boardroom, Michael is effectively starving the Harvey brand of the high-level industry validation they so desperately crave, leaving Marjorie to manage a collapsing narrative with zero leverage. The immediate fallout of this quiet disclosure is already sending massive shockwaves through Lori Harvey's commercial empire, as major corporate sponsors and global luxury fashion houses begin to re-evaluate the risk of being associated with such a toxic domestic matrix. Rumors are circulating that at least 2 major multi-million-dollar endorsement deals currently sitting on Lori's table have suddenly been placed on an indefinite administrative hold, as corporate legal teams look closer at the intense controversies surrounding the family's public image. Marjorie's desperate attempts to pivot and stabilize the situation by pushing Lori back into highly publicized appearances with more compliant partners are failing to generate the same pristine, high-end cultural respect that Michael's presence effortlessly provided. The public backlash against the Harvey matriarch is intensifying by the hour, with internet communities and mainstream entertainment commentators completely turning the tables on the original narrative of infidelity. Digital platforms are being completely flooded with deep-dive analysis videos, breakdown threads, and intense scrutiny of past public statements made by family members, exposing the repetitive pattern of reputation destruction used against every man who exits Lori's life. The strategic silence that once acted as an absolute weapon for Marjorie has now transformed into her greatest liability, as the public interprets her current lack of a formal statement as an admission of guilt, leaving the family brand completely exposed in the court of public opinion. To make matters infinitely worse for the household dynamics, serious cracks are reportedly forming within the executive relationship between Steve and Marjorie, as the legendary comedian faces the professional consequences of a domestic war he never wanted to fight. Insiders claim that Steve is deeply furious about how Michael B. Jordan's name was handled, realizing that the aggressive tactics employed by his wife have permanently damaged his own personal friendships and professional credibility within Hollywood's elite networks. Steve is now finding himself forced to navigate a humiliating public relations crisis, where his long-held image as a wise, boundary-setting family patriarch is being completely eroded by the public realization that he possesses zero executive authority within his own home. The long-term financial and professional consequences of this massive exposure are shaping up to be an absolute catastrophe for the Harvey family platform, with industry insiders predicting a total freeze on high-profile collaborations. Entertainment agencies and branding experts are quietly warning their clients to maintain a safe, dignified distance from Marjorie's social circle, recognizing that entering her orbit means subjecting your entire career, assets, and reputation to a predatory maternal apparatus. Michael B. Jordan, meanwhile, continues to watch the collapse of the Harvey narrative from a position of absolute corporate security, his character fully vindicated by the sheer truth of his professional endurance and the undeniable reality of Marjorie's exposure. The veil has officially been lifted on Hollywood's most calculated breakup, and the world is finally seeing the master puppeteer behind the curtain. Michael B. Jordan refused to be another casualty in the Harvey family playbook, choosing instead to stand firmly in his truth and let the elite industry circles know exactly who he was dealing with. Now that the pristine luxury facade has completely crumbled, the question shifts directly to you. Do you think Michael B. Jordan was justified in finally breaking his silence to protect his hard-earned reputation from this corporate maternal control? Or do you believe Marjorie Harvey was simply doing what any protective mother would do to secure her daughter's ultimate future and brand autonomy? Drop your absolute rawest thoughts, theories, and breakdowns in the comment section below, because this conversation is just getting started. If you want to stay ahead of the curve and receive the absolute truth on the biggest celebrity exposes before anyone else, make sure to hit that like button right now. Don't forget to subscribe to Star Watch and turn on all your notifications so you never miss a single investigative breakdown.